late night Imagine More. The thing is, Seth is probably the longest, well, the latest we've ever done it, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not as late for me. It's only like 10:26. But
Was
for you,
126 in Florida, and so it's the latest for me. Um, but we kind of like we didn't want to go another week without chiming in. There's so much political news coming through, and we're like, we just gotta find a way to get our episode in. Talk about some of this craziness,
yeah,
especially this craziness in the house this last 2 weeks. The house has been
yeah.
the people's house has been vacant because they haven't been working. So
You
by
know, we thought it was gonna be Jim Jordan for sure. He definitely had the most support, and then he couldn't get through. Then we went to Steve Scalise.
yeah,
Nobody liked him. Then was there somebody in between that
Tom
and Tom
Emmer.
Emmer?
Yeah, Tim
Tom,
Emmer. That's
Tom Emmer.
Tom Emmer.
Was
Yeah.
there anybody in before that?
No, I think that was it. I
I
think
think
after
they were
Tom,
deciding for a while. Bunch of throwing random names out there, but Tom
yeah, there was like 10 people at one point. And they all dropped out.
yeah, that's why they like did a little straw poll. Who's feeling what?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom Emmer. He was supposed to be. They didn't end up choosing him because he was too moderate. He was just like, ah, I don't support the January 6th. I don't. I think he supports gay marriage, and he wasn't supportive of like banning trans people from the military. So then the
Mhm.
Republicans are like, he's a rhino. Let's get
Yeah.
this. Even though the reason they didn't want Jim Jordan was because Jim Jordan was supposed to be like too far right, too radical for to gain bipartisan support in
Mhm.
the House.
But then you go to someone like Mike Johnson, like,
Yeah, Mike Johnson. He's from Louisiana, right?
yeah, super conservative.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a very typical Louisiana life perspectives. He's like as far right as anybody in the Republican Party could be, pretty much. He's like a fundamentalist Christian.
Hmm.
He wants to use like he doesn't believe in separation of church and state, and he has super radical views on like everything across the board, pretty much. So that's not like a good look. I mean, it could help us in like this next election just to show at least he's upfront about how crazy they are. So regular people might be like, is this really the direction of the Republican Party? Like there was definitely times where Trump seemed like he was trying to like move to the middle to gain more support, and he was actually doing better.
Yeah.
It's gonna get hard for them to just not alienate voters across the board. You know what I mean? Like with Trump in trial, all of his lawyers turning against him, turning him in, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot defensible there for them.
No, because those lawyers, they have the ethics rule. So a lot of people realize lawyers are governed and ruled by, like, every state has like the Florida bar, and like lawyers, we can't represent to the courts or even to the public mistruths, because it violates one of those ethic rules. And so a lot of those Trump lawyers, they're just saying, yeah, yeah, the election's false, knowing well that they saw the facts, they knew the law, and they knew it wasn't, but they still peddled the lies anyway. So a lot of them had to plead guilty, and a lot of them lost their license too because of that.
Yeah,
So it was a bad day for the profession. But Trumpisms, I guess, be loud, be aggressive, and then people will follow you. Doesn't work in court, unfortunately, and a lot of people don't realize that. With court is very, yeah, you can. It's very theatrical. Like, people, they'll see it. They're like, "Oh, objection," and all this fancy stuff happens. But the reality is, the law is not that sexy. It's very cut and dry, very black and white. There's it's 90% gray, but for the most part, you're going to be it's you can't talk your way out of your problems, essentially. That's what Trump does well. He talks his way out of problems. Like, He's like, "Oh, I did, sign this bill, which was terrible, but I gave you $1 million in your pocket." That's how he talks. He's like, he doesn't. He's not based on logic. It's based on, it's a show.
Based
He's
on
filmed.
like charisma, he's
His
trying to.
charisma, yeah. His charisma drives a lot of his politics. And I was watching this thing this week with Mitt Romney, and yeah, I was watching Mitt Romney. Sorry,
No,
and
I did the same.
you did. You watched it.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just saying like
Yeah, he did
what
an
happened.
interview. Yeah, I think it was on C-SPAN or something like that. He did an interview, and he was kind of saying how he did not like the direction his party was going because he felt like they're not leaders in that party. He felt that if a lot of people there are just more theater show, popping fans, if that's the word. But
They're just part of the Trump bandwagon.
exactly, and he felt like that's not what he came into politics for. You know, well, I think a lot of people feel like that. Like, yeah, there's a level of showmanship you have to be. It's politics, but at the same time, it should be based on policies. Like
Hmm.
what I really actually believe that can help the country, not based on if I call someone fat. It's like, oh, that guy's a funny guy, but I could be a complete idiot. I'm just funny.
That's
So
pretty much all that Trump is. Is he just like people will be like, I just liked when he was president because of the tweets and stuff like that.
yeah,
They just like him being bold on Twitter, calling people out like it was a comedy show. Because realistically, people don't really know what happens in their government. They don't know what policies represent which politician. They they pretty much most people just vote for personality because they just want to choose who they have to look at, who they have to deal with as their representative as president for the next few years. So it's just vibes, you know.
exactly. Yeah, that's all it is. It's just vibes, and you have a terrible president, a terrible person run for presidency, but just because his vibe is on, it's like, oh yeah, he's gonna get electable because he just has it.
He just has better vibes than Hillary Clinton, who
Mhm.
was so scripted that you really couldn't like see her as a person. Well, Trump was like, "Oh, I'm just being me," so he felt more predictable. He felt less controlled.
He
So
does, but he's controlled too. He's controlled by his businesses,
yeah, exactly. He's
guys. If
controlled
you
by his own material interests.
exactly, guys, if you see me drinking water, it's because I'm parched, but I do not endorse Fiji. Uh, they do not pay for our endorsements. So if you see the Fiji water bottle, that's not because we're trying to put Fiji out there. It's just because I'm just thirsty.
In fact, don't drink Fiji.
Why? It's a pH that
No,
was.
I'm just kidding.
Oh,
An opposite endorsement. A
like I
disendorsement.
the opposite of endorsement. This is create what undo endorsement. So it's funny I say this because I always get flack for this. I'm like a big okay. So I took this class, and sorry guys, just sidebar. But I took this class back in college. It was earth science. Guy loves. He was my professor. He was a very big what do you call those people who believes in evolution?
Oh, that do believe
Yeah,
or don't believe?
they do.
Just
Evolutionist.
yeah, just evolutionists. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So he was a big evolutionist. So he would go on these rants all the time about how we shouldn't be polluting the world and how we would half the water bottles we buy in America are just pointless and useless, and we should just drink tap water because it's better water, it's more purified and more clean. And he's like, because most pH levels on water, it's not even good for your body unless it's pH 7 or above. I say that to say that the Fiji water, not an endorsement, but the pH water is 7 and above. Like if we look at the pH levels, so that's why I drink it. I think it's a fine water.
Yeah, the super distilled water bottles go through all this like refinery process and stuff, and
Yeah.
takes out a lot of like the essential minerals that you would naturally get in water. So
Mhm.
it definitely water bottles are not better for you. Plus, if they're sitting around for a while, like the plastic starts to disintegrate in your water. So, and it's obviously bad for the environment. So it's kind of like a big L across the board.
Exactly right. It's never. I wonder when does that water disintegrate into the bottle? Because this one's been here.
Probably like 2 years or something like that.
Oh, thank you for making me less fearful because it's been here for at least a month.
I don't think it's that quick. That would make them very inefficient. But.
Just like our Congress people. You see how we sucked it back, guys?
just like the U.S. Congress.
Yes. The longer they're there, they're gonna melt into our way of life, their showmanships and not real policies. And this is what we have right now. We have showmen. Like a lot of people, like Rami said, a lot of these people are actors, performers.
Yeah.
You know, they're comedians. They're not serious people. It's like, and the reality is, it's like they're not serious. For example, take someone like Mike Johnson, who's got elected, right? We're gonna ask Mike Johnson. No, no offense to Louisiana. Louisiana is a great city. I've never been there, but I've heard great things about it. Uh, you're gonna have a guy from Louisiana dictating how much money this spends on the war of in Ukraine. How much money being spent in Iraq. I'm sorry, Iraq. Sorry,
Israel.
Israel. Thank you. The eyes got me. Israel. You're gonna have him making these crucial decisions, negotiating with the Democrats, with no experience whatsoever. Has he ever even hold a leadership role?
Not that I'm aware of. He might be in some committee or something like that, but I mean, still not enough. He's just a representative. He's not. He definitely is he was never been a whip or anything like that.
That's what I was saying. Like, I don't think he's been like a whip or or even in part of leadership in the Republican Party. Like even when they were in minority, and now they have the majority.
He's a leader. He's the leader of the House Republican Conference. So it's some forum for communication within the Republican Party. I don't know. It still doesn't seem like that powerful.
No, you're not dealing with the Democrats.
Chair of the Republican Study Committee.
Oh,
which
serious credentials there. Yeah.
Oh, I think that's about the primary function is always push for significant cuts in non-defense spending. Oh, okay. Advocates social. So basically, it's just like the really far right caucus.
You know, I never understood why Republicans always say that we spend too much money, but when it comes to defense spending, we don't cut at all.
Yeah,
it's like.
Although now that Democrats are the ones pushing for, well, they don't like foreign aid. They love like the military spending, but when we're giving aid to other countries, when it actually is benefiting the world, on a world stage instead of creating more innocent death, then they're like, no, the Democrats, they're wasting our money.
It's always the Democrats.
Although they love sending money to Israel too, so that one they're probably cool with, but they probably would oppose Ukraine spending. If I were to guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, Republicans always try to say that the logic, especially in the House, is like they always talk about, oh, we want to do budget spending, or I'm sorry, budget cutting. We always want to do budget cuts because we're trying to save the American tax dollars. And then you look historically, you see who spent the most money. Historically, it's like the Republicans, and then you're like, I think Nikki Haley said that at one of the debates. She's like, hey, we can't keep blaming Democrats for the debt when you guys are voting for it too. And so,
I mean, when was the last Republican to balance the budget or to have a budget surplus?
Well, I mean, the last person I know who had a surplus was Bill Clinton.
It's Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
I feel like Eisenhower maybe had a surplus. I'm not entirely sure. But either way.
He had a lot of, because he was making a lot of the reforms that were coming.
Either way, ever since, I mean, Republicans up to the 70s were pretty centrist. It was a more moderate. Nixon was kind of not, he wasn't a moderate, but on economics, he definitely was like, he said we are all Keynesians now. So he was pretty centrist on the economy. It wasn't until Reagan who pushed this sort of we must like stop spending what everything whatsoever.
Yeah.
Trickle down economics. We have to just cut taxes for the rich. That's how we generate wealth, essentially, which is obviously just a trap.
So
Hand
wrong.
up, benefits to the 1%, stuff like that. But Reagan never even cut spending. In fact, he was more like the leader out of any president at his time in overall spending, especially on defense. He spent a lot on defense.
Yeah.
But so he wasn't necessarily like spending money on stimulus spending or stuff to generate middle wage profits, anything like that. But no, he definitely didn't care about the overall deficit.
No, of course not. That's not his intent. His intent was to make it seem like he was the opposite of Carter.
Yeah, true.
And so that was his big goal. And I mean, was he successful? Yes, he had 2 terms. But can we point to one thing that Reagan did during his administration that's still currently in place?
I mean, he definitely didn't. The Republicans don't build anything really. I mean, George Bush did technically build like the Department of Homeland Security and the Patriot Act and stuff like that, but for the most part, Republicans just take stuff apart. So
Yeah.
you wouldn't really have a lot building or a lot standing based on
But
something
what,
they created. He
but
was
what,
more permissive on like immigration. He was
mhm.
actually more permissive than you'd think on guns. No, I mean permissive, not permissive. Uh, he like banned assault rifles and stuff and like bump stocks. So Reagan was not super far right on guns compared to most people, but on economics it doesn't get worse. So he also like destabilized South America. Like the Iran Contra was his fault. All sorts of stuff. So I don't remember how we started talking about Reagan, but
But no, I mean, well, Reagan is what most Republicans now hold their hat on. If the more Reagan you are, the more accepted you are. So
yeah.
Reagan is kind of their stand bearer. Is that a proper term there? It's their idol. It's their idol.
Yeah.
Essentially, they look up to him for their virtues.
He kind of created the modern Republican Party.
Exactly. And so when I look and I see people like Mike Johnson, that's kind of what he's really trying to
Yeah.
recreate. You
Traditional
know,
values, he wants to cut spending, wants to cut Medicare, wants to cut Medicaid, Social Security, all these
abortions.
sort of things. Ban abortion nationwide. He thinks. I'm pretty sure he said it like gay marriage could be criminalized, like gay relationships in general. Like he's super against homosexuality, like to an extreme end. So I mean, I don't know how much you can really get done in the House of Representatives, especially with a Democratic Congress or a Democratic Senate.
Yeah.
But still, it shows the Republicans are not drifting towards the center like you might think.
It
It's
just shows.
because they had to vote pretty unanimously for him, right?
Yeah, it just shows that they don't want to get nothing done. They're not gonna. This whole thing that the Republicans are doing, they don't want to help Biden the last year for reelection.
No.
That's not what they want to do. They don't want to do anything, so they're trying to just like hold off and hold off and hold off. So when it comes time to push yourself, it's like, hey, no, it's the Democrats' fault. That's nothing gotten done. But you're like, well, you've had a slim majority for 2 years, so there's not one agenda you want to pass. So the only bill that the Republicans has passed the last 10 years, I think it was a tax reduction act, which kind of
Yeah,
changed.
the massive tax cut passed under Trump, which added trillions, I think, to the deficit, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
fiscal responsibility, all that sort of stuff, just so that super rich, successful people could have marginally more than they had last year.
Yeah, that's all it
Yeah.
is.
And for that, we're trillions in debt. Not that that really matters that much.
Not to
It
them.
definitely overall devalues the currency for, you know, poor people who have to pay the prices of certain sectors being have inflated prices. Like inflation doesn't come directly from, like, if you spend money, all prices go up. That doesn't work like that. It actually just
Yeah.
depends on if the people paying prices have more purchasing power.
Hmm.
So if money was spent and then it was given all to a bunch of people who wanted to buy cars,
Yeah.
well, then then the purchasing powers of people buying cars would rise, and then the prices of cars would rise. That's how inflation works. It's not like more money means prices accidentally like rise up. Like it's rich people, it's the capitalist class setting the prices according to what they can get away with. Essentially, that's all inflation is. So,
Exactly.
in U.S. inflation is at least not even remotely bad right now. I think it got up to 9 something percent, maybe even higher, like a year and a half ago. But at this point, inflation's at like 3%,
The
which
Pistons getting pretty good. I mean, I know there's one more hike that the Feds are gonna do. That should drive inflation down some more.
which
But
which honestly is not even necessary because you can to grow the economy you have to spend at a rate of inflation up from like 2 to 4%. So they're like right in a good range for growing the economy. You
yeah,
still want to add money into the economy for growth to happen. Otherwise, the economy will shrink if you cut spending.
yeah. And if it shrinks, that's gonna land us into another recession,
Yeah,
which is we don't want that, especially not under while we're in power.
yeah.
Maybe
The
we're gonna-
Republicans seem to think we've been under a recession like since Biden took over, but we've had a pretty relatively healthy economy the entire
yeah,
Biden presidency.
yeah,
Like
I
there's
agree with you. Like our economy has been very strong. I mean, it's one of the best economies in the last I don't want to say 10 years because I mean we owned the government for 2 years there under Obama, and the economy was pretty decent after coming out of '08 crisis.
Yeah, pretty much
So
since then we've had a strong economy.
yeah, it was just good coming out of '08. We very strong economy. Mortgage companies bounced back. Cars bounced back. COVID put a damper on it, but a lot of them are already back. I
Yeah,
mean,
that was a circumstantial thing where it's like, yeah, we're not gonna generate money because we weren't working for this amount of time. But it's not like it. I mean, it definitely took out some small businesses, but a lot of people have been able to bounce back and start new businesses and stuff. We're back in a healthy range of growth. So
yeah, I mean, it definitely is a good thing. I mean, we bounced back. A lot of companies bounced back, and then COVID kind of took them down again, and then they bounced back after COVID, which is a good thing. I mean, that's why when I compare the two economies of Biden versus Obama's economy, I'm like, well, they both came out of two crazy scenarios. One
yeah,
was a mortgage crisis in 2008, and one was like a worldwide crisis of like health, which
the difference between Obama and Biden's reaction to their economic problems. I think Obama was more just reactive, and he was like
yeah.
mitigating externalities, while Biden
Mhm.
was like constructive to an extent. Like he wasn't just like he was building something. He was like bringing U.S. manufacturing back and like the chip manufacturing, building middle class to an extent. Like there was definitely things in the IRA, the infrastructure bill. Like these are
Yeah,
things Obama didn't really do. Obama was just like, let's subsidize big auto industries so that all the U.S. can keep its car manufacturing. Let's subsidize banking so people don't lose all the money that they had invested and that they kept in their banking savings account. And
yeah. I think it was a good plan. I mean,
Yeah,
subsidizing
it's
the bank.
necessary, but
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about that, like having that kind of co-op government, and that's kind of like the first kind of version of it in a sense. I mean, not really like what we would define as co-op, but the kind of the idea of taking over a company by the government, that's run by the people, and
yeah.
fixing it so that it serves the people. And then once we did that, I mean, I believe we turned it back over to Fannie or Freddie Mac, um, and it's been working ever since. And there's been no issues. So there are two different crises between Biden and President Barack Obama, but I think the Democrats, they just, my dad has this thing. He always says that Democrats fix the economy, Republicans crash it. and
Yeah, the stuff.
it get, huh?
I said it's definitely true.
Yeah, and he's right. That's generally what happens. And I think that Biden is doing a good job as of running on that his record. But the problem is he's running his record. He's doing well. His poll numbers are doing great.
I
But
mean, his poll numbers,
I mean, I'm not talking about his internal. I know what you're talking about. I'm talking about his like this
like
big.
approval rating.
Yeah,
I don't think he's just. I don't. And internally,
I
like
was talking about
within
like
the Democratic Party, he's
I
polling a
was talking about the primaries, the Democratic primary
Oh yeah,
poll.
the primary, but still. Oh, I see. But his overall approval rating, the Democratic Party is at like 75% or something.
Yeah, that's
And
number two. Yeah,
I think Republicans, under Trump it was like 95%, 99%. I don't know, somewhere in that
even
range.
Obama it was in the '90s.
Yeah, so it's pretty bad. I mean, it's still could be a lot worse for sure, but I'm not so positive.
It's his age, man.
Yeah, I mean, like every couple months it's like getting a little
Gets
worse.
older.
It
It gets older. Yeah,
gets older.
every couple months he gets older. Yeah,
It's a never ending cycle, man.
unfortunately, yeah, he can't. Father Time can never be defeated. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
I mean,
you need a lot of energy to run a presidential election. So
oh my god, and I think that's the whole idea with Gavin Newsom is to run him out there because he can now. You just saw him in China. It was a
oh
little
yeah, he
weird.
did do that, which is weird.
Yeah,
It's
but like
that
that's
kind
the
of
idea. Run Gavin Newsom out there because he has all the energy, and he's like Biden. He's like Biden 50 years ago.
yeah. I'm starting to dislike Gavin Newsom again.
Wow, what do you do now?
He just does the like unnecessary things in California. Like California legislature will pass like multiple good bill after multiple good bill, and then he
Mm-hmm.
vetoes it for absolutely no reason, like giving power to the Republicans when it's not like they need him or need them at all. Like they have such a like what Tim Walz is able to do in Minnesota with like a one person majority in his legislature. They're
Mm-hmm.
passing like every single Democratic policy achievement agenda item, and Newsom is like has like a giant majority because it's California, and he's like just vetoing every single progressive policy essentially.
Well, he's running for president, so he can't come out with progressive stuff. You
I
gotta
mean,
come get office.
not even progressive, like basic liberal stuff. You know what I mean? He's just doing. He's almost like Bill Clinton in that way, but
Anybody, you guys come off as a centrist because
yeah,
at the end of the day, centrists always win the presidency. No one
I mean,
like
except for Trump.
Trump is a centrist. He's not a conservative. That's BS.
I mean, Trump is more like an economic centrist and not even a centrist, but he's more moderate on economics and actually certain social issues. He could be more moderate, like,
Yeah.
but overall, politically speaking, he's pretty far right. You know what I mean? From
Well,
like his stance on
I think his rhetoric is right, like pretty
no,
far.
but I mean like he wants to get rid of like the Constitution in certain areas when it doesn't work to his favor. He would do super authoritarian like
Yeah, of
right
course.
wing stuff. You know what I mean? So he does. He's kind of like Nixon, like I was saying. Nixon is kind of an economic centrist. but obviously he like did a giant authoritarian increase of police power and the
Yeah,
war on drugs and all sorts of stuff that made him pretty far right at the same time. So Republicans can kind of do whatever they want that way, just whenever it pleases them personally. Because the Republicans are just a contrarian party. They just do the opposite of what Democrats do.
that's the
Like
that's the agenda.
Obama's president. Oh, we hate that he's still in Afghanistan. We want to get out of Afghanistan. Trump goes, I want to get out of Afghanistan. Trump's in office the entire time, doesn't do it. And then
Nope.
Biden does it, and they're like, oh, he did the worst thing ever. Oh, I can't believe how he pulled out of Afghanistan. He did it so terribly. Like, what would you have done better? When would you have done?
Yeah, how would you do that? It's like people want like this workup, like this. For example, when they announced like Iraq, like hey, we live in Iraq, and it's been 15 months. Like people are like, okay, fine. And in 15 months, we didn't leave Iraq in the 15 months. There's people still there. There's still stuff there. So it wasn't like even though a president will put a timeline on it, it doesn't necessarily mean that everything will be out of that country at that particular time that belongs to us. So this flack, that Biden's getting for this is like, what do you? I mean,
They
first of
don't
all, we've
even
been in
know.
war
They
for
don't even know how the pullout even like what even happened. They just know how the media covered it, and
hmm
they don't like Biden. So immediately, like, let's jump on. If Biden did it, it must have been bad because he
well,
because
of course.
he controlled the election. He's a rigger. He rigged the election. Like
Well,
they just have all these built-in conspiracy theories and whatever.
well, if your candidate's bad, why would you try to even acknowledge your candidate? The best thing to do is knock the other candidate down. It's like, oh, Biden's terrible. Biden's old. Biden can't do it. Biden's like, the reality is no one's going to buy that. The old thing, yes, I think people buying the old thing, but just that's because it's common sense. It's like he's 82
Yeah,
years old. He's barely hanging in there.
he's
But
hanging in.
no, let's just call it for what it is. I mean, he doesn't look like he's on the top of his game
Mm-mm.
on a lot of stuff. So
Which is basically the reason why
the
with the
presidents,
new what was that?
but presidents don't run the country anymore.
No, that's true.
They're the people that's underneath them runs the country. They just make the final decision.
But also, I feel like the president sets the rhetoric for the entire party for like 4 years.
Yep.
So they kind of decide which coalition has the most power, essentially, because that's how the voter base reacts to whether or not they want to vote for progressives or moderates or blue dog
Yep.
Democrats. It pretty much depends on the leadership of the party, how they decide. And you can see that with the Republicans. They immediately do whatever Trump wanted. The
Mm-hmm.
entire Republican Party is shaped around his personal agenda.
Pretty much.
It's very, very different than the Republican Party of the Tea Party era. So
Yeah, which is crazy because Tea Party era was like 2010.
2010, 2012, even a little bit 2014.
That mirror Paul Ryan is like, oh yeah, I'm part of this Tea Party movement. I just want to pass a tax reform.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I remember that, and that's that very very different party from that.
yeah.
Now they were talking about like,
Tariffs and stuff and
we're talking about can we get
building
a president?
walls.
Can we get the president on the ballot?
Yeah.
Because he's about to go commit, but he charged a whole bunch of fraud crimes.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I don't even know if he's going to make it. I don't know what's going to happen if he doesn't. I don't know.
I mean, he'll just be in jail and people will vote for him. That's
Yeah.
federal crime, so he can always pardon himself. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
Well, he can pardon himself if he wins, but is he
Yeah.
able to run even if he's in jail?
No, he couldn't because he would be a felon.
So he might not even run. But if he does, I think Eugene Debs ran for president from prison at one point, but I don't know. I'm sure the laws were very different back then.
Yeah.
That was in
But
like 1906 or something. So, but
I mean, I don't know.
Eh,
No, but the law should have been the same. I think you can have a felony.
yeah, that might be more modern law. Um, anyways, what about this Dean Phillips guy?
Well, Dean Phillips, I, I've okay. You should hear me pausing is because I really don't know who he is, and
He's
honestly,
not like a
that's
no
gonna be a
name.
big problem for him.
Yeah, he's not
Hmm?
like a no name, but he's definitely not super well known.
No,
No, he's like a lot. If you're into politics, you probably have heard of him, but it doesn't go much farther than that.
no,
And
I haven't heard of him. You told me more about Dean Phillips than
yeah,
I've ever heard about him on the news or anything like that.
well, he's a little bit more centrist than Biden in some ways, and
Yep.
I think he's got a very likable personality. I could see if he got on Jimmy Fallon or something like that, he could start to get a lot of attention, start sparking.
Like like Robert Kennedy did.
Yeah, except Robert F. Kennedy has no charisma, and he still did sparked attention. So
Yeah, say how bad it is for Joe Biden.
yeah, so I could see because there is a large amount of people in the Democratic Party that don't want Biden to run, but they will vote for him if he does.
Well,
But
yeah, I mean, that's of two evils.
yeah, no, he's definitely better. Even like when the non-operable Biden is better than Trump, obviously.
Yeah,
Even
but
if our country does absolutely nothing positive, it's better than the destruction that would be caused by the Republican Party. So,
I just don't understand, like, how come Trump is gaining on him in the polls, and that's scary because like it's four indictments, like, and he's gaining on you. How's that possible? And so that's what Dean Phillips' main argument is. It's like, look, you know, I don't want to run against him. I'd rather have someone else do it because I don't have the
yeah.
name. But the reality is, I don't think he's going to win.
I
Like
mean, it's kind of
legit,
a big. That's a good reason to run.
yeah, it is a very good reason
Yeah, you
because
don't
he's
want
like,
your party to be destroyed because they lose marginally to an authoritarian, fascistic Republican Party that basically wants to end democracy as we know it.
mm,
So, yeah, let's
yeah,
see what
so,
he can do.
yeah. I mean, let's pull him up real
I
quick.
probably wouldn't support a lot of his policy agendas. Maybe some of them are pretty good. Probably for the most part, it's pretty equivalent to what Biden would do. But basically, voting for a younger Biden. You know,
Yeah, I personally would like. Oh, I forgot to tell you. There's also a rumor mill going on that what's his name, Cory Booker.
Cory
Down,
Booker.
yeah, he's down in South Carolina giving speeches.
Hmm,
I don't know what that means.
that
Like,
would be interesting. I could see him winning.
I can definitely see him winning against Biden.
I could see him winning against Trump too.
Yes, I
I
can
don't,
see
I
that
don't think it
too.
would be a landslide, but I think he would do it.
It depends on who his VP is. His VP would have to be someone older and experienced.
You think he's pretty old? He's probably 50, but definitely somebody that helps the ticket. Not like Biden, who Kamala definitely does not help his ticket.
It doesn't, but he gave him. This is gonna come out very wrong, but it's a night show. But if you notice, they try to secure like some of the black vote with the Camilla pick. I mean, Joe did the same thing with Biden. I mean, not Joe. Barack, President Obama did the same thing with Joe Biden.
Yeah,
He needed to secure some white votes, so he put Joe Biden on the ticket. I mean, I have no problem with it. I mean, it's politics at the end of the day, and it's a demographic game. But I don't know how Dean Phillips is going to make the case to the primary voters that Joe Biden can't beat him.
but can't
That's
go that. I mean, he's not going to say Joe Biden can't beat
Dean
Dean
Phillips. Yeah,
Phillips, which he probably knows that's very likely that Biden would beat him. But he
yeah,
could make the case, Biden can't beat Trump, so you're either voting for me or you're voting for Trump winning. Basically, that's his case, right?
yeah.
It's
That's his main case. That's
it's a good case.
I mean, it's a good case.
But I think he has to come out with like more positive, like positions essentially. Like that's a good case to make, but you also have to inspire people alongside that. I don't think
Hmm.
you can just vote for like it's kind of like what Cenk was doing. Cenk's
Yeah,
whole reason to run was like just to like raise awareness that Biden shouldn't run or something like that. You know, he
yeah,
wasn't providing like an alternative message or an alternative vision.
yeah,
I think if you're gonna win, if you're gonna convince the entire Democratic Party, you got to come up with something alongside that. Like, if you started off, boom, this is what I believe in, universal health care, which Biden has not achieved yet. You know, universal basic income, this or
yeah,
that on guns, whatever his plans are, then people at least have something to compare him to Biden. Like, what has Biden done so far? What would I be getting with a continued Biden presidency? What has he failed to deliver that Dean Phillips could offer? You know what I mean?
yeah.
Dean Phillips is from Minnesota. I think he's from a pretty competitive district. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things he could run on if he did the right way.
I mean, yeah. I just want to know what that message is gonna be.
Yeah,
When it seems like it's Joe Biden and Mary Wilson in a far distant race.
yeah, yeah. No, because RFK is out of the race now.
Yeah, he's in,
He's running
he's
as
in
an independent, and he's last I hear he's at 16%.
what? Really?
Yeah,
Wow, that's
he's been
really good.
pulling like that range. But I
Yeah, it's
mean,
really good for independent.
I think Ross Perot at one point was polling like 25, 30%. So you can pull really high early on, you know?
Yeah, but it's not. It's got, I guess you're right. Jeb Bush was leading all polls, and then saw what happened to him.
I mean, even as an independent in a presidential race, like Ross Perot at some points was like winning the election in polls, and then he dropped out for a while. And he lost a little bit of momentum, and he came back and he got like 19%. But even
You
as a
know,
third party candidate, he
yeah,
didn't have any electoral votes. So it's like there's really no way RFK could could win.
yeah. That's why he left because he was like,
No, I
logically, he's
mean
not.
like in the general election, he didn't. He's in as running as an independent, and I don't know if he could win as an independent. It seems
I,
very impossible.
the first thing he has to do is get his name on all the ballots.
Yeah, that's probably the hardest part.
That's the hardest part. Once you get your name on all the ballots, then it becomes like, all right, still got to establish name ID. I mean, it does help your Kennedy.
Yeah,
like
and
no,
he's gotten a lot of name recognition. He's been going on so many different YouTube shows, podcasts, like radio shows, and he's doing his appearances in talk shows. So a lot
yeah.
of people have heard of him.
Well, the a lot of people, you mean like political people?
I mean,
That's
regular people, regular everyday people have heard of him too,
oh, okay.
like more than you'd expect.
Well, yeah, I don't expect people to talk to him.
But they're like regular non-political people. Like he's going on like comedians talk shows and stuff like that, like Joe Rogan stuff like that. Theo Vaughn. He's going
That's
on these regular people talk shows where they'll watch whatever him talk to some comedian, and they're like, "Oh, I'd vote for this guy," because he's basically like, I'm pretty sure before he ran, he's like, "How am I going to win? I just have
yeah,
to, I have to pick the winning policy position, the most popular thing across the board. Like a majority of people support gun rights, a majority of people support this or that." He basically picked the majority support in like every single one of his policy positions. Just like I don't know, just the populist playbook.
yeah, but you gotta do something because the public people can only take you so far
Yeah,
before people are like, all right. That's what happened to the guy Ramaswamy.
yeah.
Like, yeah, he had the charisma. He had the theater down packed, in my opinion.
It's good
But
for getting attention,
exactly.
but it's not
Once
really
they
good for like delivering any sort of result or like creating coalitions. or getting endorsements or like, you know, meeting with coalitions to give their support to you. So
Yeah, it's tough, and it's really really tough. I mean, we just look at the Ford Party and see what they're doing. I haven't heard from them
yeah,
since they announced, So that would have been a smart move, like to join the Ford Party and try to build that up. Because the problem is when people go independent, they just like it's the Green Tea Party. So like five people believe what we believe. Then you have the Ford Party has like five people believe what we believe.
yeah,
The Democratic Party has like over 100 people, and these are all not real numbers, but
yeah.
you're separating the people. So if all the little tiny parties got together and was like, look, let's just make one massive third party, and we'll have fashion in it, just like the Democrats and the Republicans. But then we'll have we could be that center party that is not really aligned with the left side or the right side. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. Yeah, guys, I'm losing my voice, but
All
it's all
back.
right. Huh? Yes. So yeah, so it's the left side or the right side. They have the center side. They can really focus on, which I think that that's what most Americans want right now. We just want a center president,
Yeah, they
right?
want well what they don't really know what they want. They just know they don't want any of the extremes within the
Mm-hmm.
Democratic Party and the extremes in the Republican Party. They don't know if that means far left, far right, authoritarian, libertarian. They don't know what any of that stuff means. They just know like what they hear the conservatives criticize the liberals over. They don't want to be that, and then
Yeah.
they don't want to be everything that the liberals attack the conservatives over. So they're just like they just want to be a non-problematic party essentially.
Well, that's never going to work. That should never be a message that I'm non-problematic because people don't vote for that. People vote for the problem child.
Well, the Democrats for a while have just been the non-problematic party. Basically, they haven't really advocated for much or fought that hard. They've basically been like, we're better than them in this way. We're still gonna
Yeah.
like stick to the neoliberal economic playbook of privatization, deregulation, balancing the budget. Like they were kind of on board with all that stuff 2000, 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Like for even a bit of Obama was still in that stuck in that mindset. So
Mm-hmm.
they haven't really done much more than we're not gonna we're gonna play civility politics and we're not gonna you know do that. Mitch McConnell did his thing where he didn't nominate the Supreme Court justice and he screwed over the Democratic.
Oh yeah, well, Obama's last year.
Yeah, and that's an example of like Republicans saying, we're not doing civility politics or like what the good guys would do. We're just going to do whatever's politically expedient or what's good for our party. And
Yeah,
Democrats are unwilling to do that because they just want to look virtuous, essentially.
yeah,
Um,
we're the virtuous party. It's like
yeah,
the Republicans make fun of us. It's like, guys, we just like to win. You guys just like to be virtuous. And
yeah,
it's
which is not very helpful in big picture. Like, it's
yeah,
better to be virtuous than non-virtuous, but it's way. I would rather get our policy agendas passed and not be virtuous. I mean, it depends on what
yeah.
you mean. I'm not trying to use
You gotta be
powers
principled.
of the government, but you don't need to look like you don't need to portray yourself as the good guy. You need to just do what is necessary. You know,
You
when
gotta be
people's
principled.
lives are at stake. Go ahead. My bad.
No, I was just saying that, like, we're progressive, right?
Yeah.
But people don't understand. This is what we call negotiations. This is America. We have to negotiate with the other side. My position is here. Bernie said this, and I don't remember when he said it, but it's true. My position is here. Your position is here, and we're gonna meet somewhere here. But you can't start here and then negotiate.
Yeah.
That's the people don't understand. It's like, yes, we want a progressive in office,
Hmm.
you know, but we want someone who makes decisions as a centrist because,
Or as a liberal, not as a centrist.
oh, sorry, as a liberal. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because reality is you're not gonna get all the progressive messages. Well, you're not gonna get it in its purest form.
Yeah.
Get passed. It's gonna go through the conservative test and the liberal test, and then you have some kind of version of it after it's gone through its committees and
Yeah.
stuff and through the House floor. So we need to elect progressives who think like a centrist.
Yeah. A progressive that's willing to be pragmatic. You know what I mean?
Yes. Hmm.
You don't want somebody that's politically pragmatic,
Hmm.
because they're usually like centrists who say they're politically pragmatic don't usually cede ground to the left. And in reality, that just means they do what Republicans would like. You know,
Hmm.
being pragmatic means charter schools and privatization and like expansion of privately owned banks in certain sectors, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what happened in the '90s when they were being. I mean, they won elections, they beat the Republicans, but they literally gave up most of the policy grounds to the center right, because
Yeah.
they wanted to win a coalition.
Mhm.
And obviously, when you start negotiating from the center and
Yeah.
you start negotiating with the right wing, you're going to end up with center right policies. So you also
Exactly.
you can't have the far left, the left wing people that are like Bernie or bust. They're like Medicare for all or bust. It's like people
Yeah.
need, if you can expand Medicaid for right now, but you can't expand Bernie or Medicare for all, like do what you got to do. Because if you really care about your policy values, you care about progress.
Exactly.
Not just having your end goals meet, because you're not going to sacrifice progress to perfection, which
No,
is
I agree.
something I believe. So
No,
you can have ambitions, and then you have to have a realistic, set of solutions, stuff you'd be willing to settle.
yeah, like for example, the gun laws in America are ridiculous right now. I mean,
Yeah.
we have to look. I mean, at the end of the day, the amount of mass shootings, especially in Parkland, and it's ridiculous.
I
And
mean,
it's
we're the
like,
only country on earth that has this problem too.
yeah, it's like, and reality is, other countries do have weapons too. We're not the only ones whose citizens
Yeah.
carry weapons, but we the only ones here. We're dealing with the most in terms of mass murders. And honestly, it's just because I hate to say it. I'm going to quote Ramaswamy. We have a mental health problem in America,
Yeah.
and and
That goes
I,
alongside how we provide healthcare too. Like, if you have mental health issues, but you better have good private insurance.
mhm,
What if their mental health, prohibits them from getting a good job with health insurance? Well, then you just have like mentally ill people on the streets making things more dangerous for people around them. It
yeah,
depends on the extent of their problem, but you have to solve like this. We do have a mental health problem, and it starts with healthcare for sure.
no, yeah, it's one of those things where it's becoming to the point where we're just like doing it so much, and it's like this man was checked in. Oh, let me update people who didn't know. If you guys didn't know, there was a mass shooting, I believe Maine, correct? Steph? There's a mass shooting in Maine. I think 18 people died. I think there was like 40, 50 people were injured. Um, this man, I think they have the name. Hold on, let me pull up his name.
We don't need to give him any credit.
Yeah, there was a man in Maine who was actually a couple months back in July. He was actually in a mental health facility,
Yeah.
um, and then he was discharged. And somehow he was able to buy a weapon legally, and he went and took that weapon. I believe he had working with his girlfriend, from my understanding.
Hmm.
Then that was like the trigger,
Yeah.
and everywhere they went, the that's what he shot up at. And then you know, I don't know if people have been following this, but it's been like 2 or 3 days they've been trying to chase him. They finally got him. Well, they found his body because he committed suicide. So that guy clearly had a mental health issue,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't understand like why we are not making that. It's a component like mental health. Like you do have to disclose if you're like in a mental facility
Yeah.
when you buy a weapon. Um, excuse me, my voice is going out. But but it doesn't make sense. How come we don't do a more thorough background check? Because if because really, are you? It's funny because it's a checklist. Are you a felon? No. Are you this? No. You this? No. No. You this? No. And it's like, have you been in a mental health facility within the last such and such time? And you put no. I don't know if they even verify after you put no if you
Yeah.
actually been to one because they're massive. There's so many. So the process is just not done correctly.
Yeah.
It's like
They're a business. They're trying to make a sale. So,
yeah,
they don't really want to look into it. Just like if you work at a bar, you don't check every person's ID.
yeah.
You just do it because it's your
Only
job.
the maybes.
What was that?
Only on the maybes. Like man, you look
Yeah, yeah.
young.
And
No,
if when it comes to mass shooters, you can't like spot them when you see them. So
no.
you got to be a little bit more extensive. And I don't know. I've never been supportive of the ban assault weapons. It doesn't make sense. It's too broad. Like it doesn't really matter what kind of gun somebody has if they're about to shoot up a bunch of people. Like there's
Mhm.
like it makes a like if it's a one shot, pull the trigger, one shot comes out, like it might take a little bit longer. That makes sense, but like
This one,
semi-automatic weapons, people keep saying either assault weapons or semi-automatic. But semi-automatic means if you pull the trigger, one bullet comes out. That's all it means. So they're trying to ban
no.
every single weapon that has a semi-automatic trigger. Like
Mhm.
it just doesn't make sense. I would be more supportive of like a gun license. Like you just got to prove, you know, submit these sort of mental health things. We make kids take this test and prove their ability to operate a heavy machinery like a car or like a forklift. But when it's literally a gun only designed to kill things, they don't
Yeah.
do that. It doesn't. I took hunter safety course when I was like 12, so that I could have a gun permit. But then you don't have to take a gun license at any point. Like,
You just did the permit.
yeah,
I know there's like tier levels for people who are like hunting
yeah,
or into the sport of shooting.
exactly.
Um, like so, they do have some extra licenses they carry, but the basic license now there's literally a checkbox. You just
So
check.
why is that a violation? Why is that not a violation to hunters' personal rights? But like
Mhm.
it would be a violation to do that when it comes to being able to prove that you can own a gun safely. Like that doesn't make sense.
I see it like this. I mean, when I was in the military, I went to boot camp, shot for 2 weeks on the range, 3 weeks on the range,
Yeah.
to Iraq. I shot almost every week, once or twice a week in Iraq. And the amount of training that we went to for those was 6 months to a year.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see like police officers who are the way they handle their weapons and overreacting and killing people, it's
Yeah.
the same thing I see with mental health. It's just
Mm-hmm.
there's not enough training that goes into having people having a weapon. It's just too
Yeah.
easy. It's
Yeah.
like
That's a good point about cops. It's like it takes that long to be in the military, just to be in the reserves or something like that, where you don't ever actually have to face real combat. Generally speaking,
yeah,
it's just in the off chance. But cops face like people on the daily, and like
Yeah.
they have a daily risk of having to use their weapons, but they don't have to go to like
Well,
monthly,
yeah, they have.
weekly
Yeah.
training, anything like that. They don't have
Well,
to be certified.
they do because they don't draw their weapon like that. It's not like they're constantly drawing their weapon, so they have to go to like ranges to get qualified on the weapon every year. Um, so they're not per se training like if they're going to overseas, like I was going to
Yeah,
wars in a combat zone. But essentially, they're still here, still operating a firearm, and they have to be able to know, escalation of force when is it proper to use and when it's not proper to use it.
yeah,
And that takes a lot of lessons. It takes a lot of experienced people. But we have to do something. We can't just sit idle. And like 18 people died yesterday. Just they didn't. Well, 2 days ago, they didn't expect that. You
yeah,
know, so we got to do better,
yeah.
and we will do
It's
better.
it is very difficult, and it's not easy. There's definitely things, loopholes that we can take care of in the background check system.
Mm-hmm.
Like America is very lax on who gets guns. Generally speaking, it depends on the state. Like out here, it's a much different issue. If anything, it could be less restrictive in California. So I mean, it just depends. It's not an easy situation. You can't just say ban semi-automatic weapons. You can't expect that to lead to less violence
Yep.
because if you know Republicans, they will literally die over their right to own a gun. They will kill people
Yes.
too. It will have a
Yes.
much more violent situation if you just try to take away guns blanketly. Like you need a judicial process to do this. You know what I mean? They have
Yeah.
stuff like red flag laws that we could institute. That if you're like, yo, I know Josh over there owns a gun and he keeps talking about ironically shooting up the place. Like maybe somebody should know about this. Like you know,
Yeah.
you have people around you. They there's definitely circumstances like you'll see like when they shoot up a school, and then you hear back reports like, oh, James has been called on by the or has had the cops called on him like 15 times before this, and he's
Yeah.
still
It's still. Yeah.
yeah
We're still some to a facility with 15 weapons are still inside his house.
yeah. Like there's definitely circumstances when people could have had hints ahead of times, and there's definitely stuff you can do with making sure they're not a dangerous person to the rest of society. And if that was actually instituted, then like Republicans would just start conspiracy theories of like, oh, the Democrats just want to do these red flag laws so they can decide if you're a Trump supporter, and if you're a Trump supporter, they want to disarm you so that they can take over your life. Like that's like
It's not like you're writing the script there.
no, that's just how they think. It's automatically like the system is all run by liberals who want to destroy me and my life and my way of living, and they want to disarm me, and they want to turn us into a Sharia law country. Like just the most random. All their fears attributed it to the Democratic Party. So I don't know. You have to view policy solutions with a little bit more intelligence of how the constituents will react if you want your policies to like last long.
Yeah,
So
that can have a real big, meaningful impact. So
yeah,
that's important. Well, Steph, we're coming up on an hour here.
yeah. I just had my computer battery tell me I got like minutes left, so perfect
That's
fine.
perfect time, guys. I know this one we kind of ran through the topics. We're coming up on the holiday weekend. Uh, weekend. We're coming up on the holidays, so it's just the frequencies. We're gonna try to build up some more episodes here for you guys, and
Yeah, it's
we're
been
working on
busy.
things. It's been busy, but we're working on things with some new animations. We're gonna present. Hopefully, um, we and Seth are gonna try to coordinate and figure out how to get that done. But
And
and this,
we're gonna upload the podcast form to different
yes,
places like Spotify and iTunes if we can figure it out. So it's
yeah,
just we're trying to re up things, get things going.
Yeah, and we're also going to be bringing them some guests. Like I'm going to try to do my best to do more networking so we can get more higher profile guests for
Yeah.
the show because we have a strong audience in Twitter, about 50,000. Not so much on YouTube. We want to get that up, but for the most part on Twitter, we have a strong audience and or X.
Yeah.
But
We get a good amount of engagement on the videos, just not enough subscribers yet that
yeah,
would like.
so we'll be working on bringing on some guests to kind of help with that growth, and so look forward to it, guys. Thanks for being patient with us this year. Podcasting is hard. Um, trying to figure out all the stuff that goes along with it. It's a really hard job.
Yeah.
Except it's 70% of this. So yeah, uh, but it's really really hard, and that's a lot, and it's really stressful. But we do it because we know this is important because the progressive message has to be out there. We have to get these ideas out there. Um, we're going to continue to do it to help you guys understand what's going on, what's our progressive perspective of the current events, and also dive deep into certain topics that we find that will help push our society forward. So, thanks for being patient with us, guys. Some big changes coming in 2024. We're gonna go for right now, but really stay tuned because there's some really exciting stuff coming down the piper.
Couldn't have said any of it better myself. Thank you, Jesse.
All right, guys.
All right. Everybody have a good night.
See you next time.